Hello and welcome back to another video today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to take a look at this week's brand new car pass car. We have now had the update, of course, which means there are, well, several new upcoming cars and we know what we're going to be test driving over the coming weeks. The two I'm particularly interested in are the two new Nobles that are going to be coming. But we'll get to those when those come out. This week's car pass car is the Ford Mustang SVO, which is quite a rare version of the third generation Mustang, basically, produced between 1984 to 1986, the one in game being the 1986 model, and they only produced 9,835 during that time. The SVO denotes that it's a Special Vehicle Operations Mustang, but this was a rather odd one, because it didn't have a V8, or even a six-cylinder. This Mustang had a 2.3 litre inline-4 engine, producing exactly 200 horsepower, which, yeah, that's not low, actually, compared to old Mustangs. They had massive engines and low power. But yeah, it's a turbocharged, smaller engine, which is quite unusual in American cars, even in the new Mustang. I do find it odd that it's exactly 200 horsepower, though, but anyway. It weighs 1,373 kilos, has a 5-speed manual gearbox, and that puts it in C-Class at 525 PI to begin with. But apart from that, there's not really much I can tell you about it other than it's a Mustang, so, well, let's see how it drives. So, away we go on our test drive in the new, well, old Ford Mustang. So, yeah, although it's kind of interesting having a Mustang with a much smaller engine, although producing probably similar amounts of power, smaller turbocharged engine. Although it's interesting, I don't think I like it. They're not very Mustang-y. They don't have the same kind of appeal as the classics, which are just cool, but the new ones are just better. This kind of era was just, yeah, not very exciting. So, not really sure why they felt the need to add this. The interior is very, well, of that era, very dated. So yeah, I'm trying to work out why they felt the need to add this. I mean, it's rare, it's interesting, I guess, but it's not very exciting. I mean, I shouldn't complain, at least it's a new car. It's not something we've bought in Car Pass 3 times already, and it's not another Golf. So it's not too bad, and the selection of cars we've got coming up over the next few weeks will more than make up for this, I think. This will be the least interesting, probably. But there's plenty of cool cars coming, and as far as I can work out, they're all, well, either new or they've been missing from the series for a while. Anyway, enough driving this around. Let's see what top speed we can hit down the motorway. So, the first slightly downhill bit, not really, mostly flat. We're up to nearly 130 already. It's not bad, actually, for 200 horsepower. No, it looks like 138 on the flat bit. Let's see what we can do on the downhill when we get there. Well, that appears to be 140 now on the flat. We've just dropped to 139 again, but nice round 140 as a top speed. Not sure what these were supposed to do. Okay, here we go, onto the downhill. 146, 47, 48, 49. We're going to be gear limited in a minute because we're getting up towards the red line. 149. Shame we couldn't quite crack 150. We wouldn't even if we carried on. So let's dive off here over to the festival. See what lap time we can do around the circuit. So, as with all other new cars in the game, I've given the Mustang 5 laps around the festival to see what the best lap time we can set is, although it does look a bit odd from bonnet view with the off-centre vent there. Anyway, I did take round quickly as a comparison before this, the Buick Regal GNX. It was the closest sort of era muscle car I could find, although it's up at 564 PI, as opposed to the 526 of this Mustang. So it was at an advantage. It had 100 more horsepower, exactly 300. I don't know what's about these very suspiciously perfect horsepower numbers. But anyway, as you might expect, the Mustang was a lot lighter than the Buick, having the small engine where the Buick has the big, probably a V8. I don't want to say that in case it's a six-cylinder. But anyway, the Buick has a much bigger, heavier engine, and a lot more power, so it really had to go on the straights. The Mustang did struggle. It lacked in power a lot. It handled better than the Buick, as you might expect. The Buick was sliding around, but it did seem to give you a false sense of it being stable, and then suddenly the back would kick out. It didn't accelerate well. It didn't handle that well. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was just too slow to handle badly, I think. So yeah, not really a great car, and I struggled to get a good, clean, fast lap in. So unfortunately, the time isn't all that quick as we come across the line. So rather predictably, the Mustang is slower than the Buick. It's set a 124.451, which makes it the slowest stock C-Class car we've ever taken around the festival, although the Buick, to be fair, didn't do much better, because it's all the way up at 564 PI, and it's still only set a 122.683, which is, well, a second and a half slower than the Celica, which is only 557 PI, so that was almost more disappointing than the Mustang. The Mustang you'd expect to be at the bottom, because it's the lowest PI. Anyway, after that rather disappointing run, I think it's time we upgrade it to, well, the top of the class above what it starts in, so let's upgrade it to the top of B, and see how it does around the festival after that. I have taken now 5 B-Class cars around, so we'll see how it sits once it's been upgraded. So as always, I'll run you through the engine swaps and Aero first, because we sometimes have some unique options for that, and then I will build it to the top of B-Class. So we have a 6.2 litre V8 if you want to... Oh, 6.7 litre V8 diesel. Interesting. Turbo Rally. So there's 2 V8s if you want to convert it back from the inline-4 to be a proper muscle car again. There's a V10 for reasons, and there's a different inline-4. Not all that exciting, and as always with these, I'll keep the drivetrain and engine standard. You have your usual all-wheel drive swap as well. In terms of Aero, at the front we only have Forza bits. At the rear, well, we have that Forza Aero and that. That's actually so much nicer than that, which is unusual. That black plastic wing's horrible, so I probably will do that. I'm not sure what this will be, though. Mud flaps. That's rather strange. Anyway, let's upgrade it to the top of B, and then see how it does. So, after throwing some quick upgrades on, we're now up at 307 horsepower. I did put full-width off-road tyres on, as I always seem to do. Changed the wheels, because they looked absolutely hideous, and swapped the wing out. So I did end up going Aero all round, and... well, tried to add as much power as I could, basically, apart from that. So we're slightly down on weight, 100 horsepower up. Let's see how it does. So, as with the stock configuration of the car, now that it's modified, it gets another 5 laps around the festival, this being the fastest one. So the previous B-Class cars we've taken round, the board is topped by the Toyota Celica with a 113 dead. We then have the MG3 from recently with a 114-1. So more than a second down on the Celica. So really, the aim with, well, any B-Class car is to try and knock the Celica off, which is unlikely, because after the MG, everything's a 115 and 16. They're really not great cars. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see how the Mustang does. It did seem to have gained, well, some more understeer than I had hoped it would have done. So it wasn't great. It had that bit more power than it had previously, but I have to say it didn't feel that fast going around here. Still didn't feel like it quite had the power, but didn't really quite have as much grip as I'd have liked either, so yeah, I don't think it's going to be a very good car, even if people who know what they're doing get their hands on it, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be very good at all, which is a bit of a shame, because it's got nothing else going for it. But anyway, round the final corner, and finally, eventually, in a minute, across the line. So unfortunately, it still didn't really do that well. It's slower than the Celica, but also slower than the MG3, a 114.641, where the MG did a 114.1. So it's half a second slower than the MG. Admittedly, I didn't really get a good lap in there. On my one good lap, I missed a checkpoint, so it was kind of thrown away, but it wasn't a bad lap, put it that way, so I still don't think it would necessarily have beaten the MG, which is slightly unfortunate, because even the MG is more than a second off my best time in the Celica. But yeah, it's still better than the Mazda 323, better than the Wuling Sunshine, and better than the Renault 8. So I suppose it's not that terrible, but yeah, I kind of hoped it would be a little bit faster than the MG at least. Anyway, we carry on our quest to find something faster than the Celica, possibly not in the car pass going forwards. I suppose we've got a pickup truck. That might be good, but the other stuff's all too fast to be in this category anyway. But there we go, kind of, well, all-round disappointing, this car, to be honest. Can't really see why they felt the need to add it, so yeah, on paper it's an interesting idea, a four-cylinder Mustang. You'd think it would be lighter and handle better. That panel gap at the front is atrocious. So yeah, you'd think maybe it would be lighter and handle better, so it might have some potential, but in reality it's just slow. It's ugly. It's slow, ugly, underpowered, isn't fast stock, isn't fast upgraded, isn't very exciting to drive, so all round it's not really worth getting. I know it's in car pass, so you've kind of got it anyway, but yeah. Unfortunately, just not a very good or interesting car. Just a bit crap all round, really. But anyway, there you go, that's the first look at the Mustang. There are plenty of other car pass cars that I will be looking at in the coming weeks. I think we've got the Toyota truck next week, and then we've got a noble Ferrari racing car, and another car, probably, somewhere. No, that probably is it, that's probably all four. But we've got some cars on the playlist as well. There is another noble in the playlist coming one week. It's the KTM this week, so I won't be looking at that, because that was in Horizon 4. But there are cars coming in the playlist as well over the coming weeks, all of which I think are more exciting and interesting than this one, probably. But anyway, there you go. Rather disappointed in the Mustang, which I didn't really have very high expectations for anyway. But there we go. That is a first look at the Mustang SVO here on Forza Horizon 5. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.